This is a video for how to go about creating some complex sketch geometry via geometric construction, and also how to do a sweep cut in Autodesk Fusion. You'll notice that we have this object here that has some curvature here on the top that we might not necessarily be able to get through a fillet. And then we also see some complex geometry here. We only really see, a vertical line here, a vertical line here, and a horizontal line here. Everything else is curvature. And what we'll need to do is create our geometry here as the front view, and then also within our top view we have to create a cut down through the object that has some symmetrical angles going on, and I'll demonstrate how to do all this. Now the measurements that we'll be using will be from the drawing that you see here on the right hand side of your screen, and I'm going to assume all of these are in millimeters at this point. So you can always go back and change your units whenever you make something. You can scale it up to a certain size. That is always entirely up to you, but I'm going to do this in millimeters. So we're going to create for ourselves a new design. I'm going to come to document settings, and I want to switch my units to millimeters. I traditionally am in inches, usually in decimal inches, but I don't do millimeters too often, so that's the reason why I'm not defaulted there. If you would like to default yours to millimeters, you can just check this box. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to click on Create Sketch. I'm going to come over to my origin, and I'm going to go down and click on the XZ plane. There's multiple ways to start a new sketch in Fusion. I could have just right-clicked on XZ and gone to Create Sketch. I could have gone to Create Sketch and come out in the graphics area. I personally like utilizing my browser as much as possible. It leaves everything nice and neat and organized. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to sketch this arc that we see down here that has a radius of 150. Now, I want to note that the total height of the object is 60, and the radius of 150 arc is perfectly tangent at this point right up here at the top. This will be like 12 o'clock on a clock. That means that it is a straight line right here where you see this line. It would start tapering off at an arc at its radius at that top point. So we're going to create for ourselves construction lines before we create this arc. So I'm going to grab a hold of the line and go to construction. Let's go to the origin, and we're going to go straight up a distance of 60, and I'm going to hit enter. Reminder that construction lines are not part of object lines, so we can't extrude or revolve from construction lines. They just help us create geometry. Now the radius here is 150, and the height we just made was 60. I need to subtract 60 from 150. Now what's nice about Fusion is if I just start a line and I go straight down, I'm just going to go 150 minus 60. That's all I got to do. And Fusion will calculate that 90 for us right away. It can do math. It's a calculator just like that. So in going back and just doing our radius, we'll see our center point is here. The top of the radius is here. Now for me personally, I like to just draw circles, and then we'll trim out the geometry we don't want later. So I'm going to grab a hold of the circle command. I'm going to get out of construction. My origin of that circle will be down here at the bottom, and I'm going to go straight up here to the top and click. Now Fusion right now sees that circle, and it's light blue. It sees surface area. There's all kinds of things we could do with that, but we only want this part of this sketch up here at the top. Now let's go back to our drawing, and we can utilize some of the dimensions up here in the top view. And what I want to notice is that from the center point where we just were, the distance from the center over is a distance of 90. Now we're only making all of this geometry in here. We're ignoring what we see where my hand is here. Now I can tell up at the top that that's a total distance of 40. So there's this right here is 20 wide, this is 20 wide, and I'm only trying to get to this point right here. So what I'm going to do is just go 90 minus 40 on a line. So I'm going to go for my origin here, and I'm going to go over. I'm going to write 90 minus 40, and I'm going to hit enter. Now I just come right to this point here. Now if we go back and take a look, this is where some geometric construction comes into play. I'm just going to go straight up through the object. This curve comes over and stops at this point. I don't necessarily need a point right here, although it says that 25 up to here. It should probably be 50 up to here that you can see. So I don't necessarily need to just drag that out. All I have to do is just go to this point. I can just come all the way up through the object, grab a hold of the trim command, and trim off that height. And we have a line here. We have a line over here on this side. Now next thing we can do is we see where it's 190 is the full width of the object, and it's 120 from the far left over to here. Now we went over a distance of 90 to our origin, and it is 190 the full object. So we'll need to go from here. We're going to, excuse me, I'm in line. So I'm going to go from our origin here. We're going to go to the left. Now let's just take a look. We have 190 and we went 90. Now we could just go ahead and say 100. I'm going to put in 190 over here as I click and drag out. Let me try to get out of here. Come over. I need to lay this flat. I'm going to grab a hold of that horizontal constraint, lay that flat, come up here. You can just say 190 minus 90 if you want. You could have just written in 100, and now we have that dragged right over. So that is our total distance that we see. Now, the reason why you notice we just had 50, we weren't going from the far side over here. We were just going from the origin. So we know that we have our distance is correct. We just have 100, we got 150, then we have two sections of 20 that are part of the other object. Now if we go back and look at our geometry here, we just want to come straight up through the object. We don't have a distance here. This is where geometric construction comes into play. We have to create the geometry here without any type of numbers given to us. So I'm just going to go ahead and click and just go straight up through the object, and I'm going to grab a hold of trim, and I'm going to trim off that top part. Now what I like is, now if you take a look at this, all we have left is just this arc right here. But now where does this arc begin? It begins from the far left over 120 from here. So what we need is we need to get for ourselves a point right here that is over 20 from the origin. Let's grab a hold of create. Let's go to point. I'm just going to come into here. I'm just going to reference this. I'm not going to click, and I'm just going to come over and just give myself a point along that line. Let's grab a hold of dimension from here to here. We're just going to go down a distance of, or over, excuse me, a distance of 20, and hit enter. So we have 100 here. We now have 20 here. Let's go back and take a look, and we have 120 over to that point. I want you to notice that in Fusion, it doesn't give us the height here, and I can tell right here that this point right here does not come all the way down and line up with this just by looking at it. So we're going to create for ourselves a 3-point arc, and we're not going to worry too much right now about where the location of this point where you see my hand is. Let's go to create. We're going to go to arc. We're going to go to 3-point arc, and I'm just going to go anywhere along this line. I don't want to snap here. I just want to be along the line. I'm going to click and come over. I'm going to click. I'm going to drag up and place it. I just want to place it because we're going to go in and dimension it here in a second. The radius is 100. So let's go to dimension. I'm going to come here. It's going to drag down. I'm going to put in a 100 for a radius, and we now have for ourselves our radius right here. That is our little curve up here at the top. Now what's nice about not snapping it anywhere, I can click and hold down on this line and it'll maintain that radius of 100. I can go wherever I want. Now I want to come down here towards the bottom, just try to get it looking as much as I possibly can like the distance we have over here. We have our distance of 120. We have the radius of 100, so we're good. Now we've created everything we need for the shape. The only thing we have to do now is trim off the geometry we don't want. So let's grab a hold of the trim command. I'm going to trim off the outside of that curve. Now I like creating those circles because all I have to do is just, this is the only thing I wanted, and the trim command makes everything so easy because I can just trim off what I don't want. And I can go ahead and keep this line if I wish. You know, Fusion is seeing that this is a surface that I can go ahead and extrude. It's not giving me black lines down here because I don't have anything. This right here is totally free moving. I don't have it. I don't have any kind of a geometric, or excuse me, a numeric constraint of a height or a distance or anything. That's why it's not seeing that the way that you would normally see it. That's why you're seeing the blue lines here. It's not completely constrained, but we're good where we are. We're going to go ahead and go to finish sketch. Let's go up to our isometric view and let's take a look here. Now the distance from the front to the back is a distance of 60. Let's go to extrude. It automatically sees it. I'm going to put in a distance of 60 and I'm going to hit enter. And we now have for our object right here. Now you can see that if we take a look over here at the front view, and this is going to help us here in a minute, that when I look at the front, I can see, you know, that face where we're eventually going to be creating kind of these knobs that come out of here. But what the issue is we're trying to find, you know, how can I go in and create this curve in here? And the curve on the top is supposed to be 60. But I also see a line down here that's also curved. Now, right now, I don't see any curvature at all. All I just see is just, you know, I see horizontal lines and I don't really see much right now. I can see there's a little bit of a curve here, but I need to find the thing that's going to arc this off on the top. To do this, this is where we're going to have to do a little bit of geometric construction within Fusion. Let's grab a hold of Create Sketch and we can go ahead and click on this face right here. Notice that we're looking at the right. And I'm going to hit P for Project Geometry, and I want to project this lines. I'm going to project as much as I can. So just grab a hold of those two sketches and I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Now, I want to go to Create and I just want to go to Point because I want to guarantee that I can get the point along here of the midpoint. When you see that triangle show up, I just want to guarantee I have that point. I'm going to click. I'm going to right click and say OK. Now this is where we're going to do a little bit more geometric construction with circles. I want a circle that has a radius of 60. Now if it has a radius of 60, that means the diameter is 120. I'm going to click anywhere out here. I'm just going to click and drag out, and I'm going to put in 120. And I want to hit enter. Now I want to put a point up here at the top of this object. So I'm going to go up to create, and I'm going to go to point. And I'm just going to reference the center. I'm not going to click, and I'm going to drag up. You can see that little blue line. I'm going to snap when I get right up here, and I'm going to say OK. So what we have now is a circle with a point. We need to move this somehow over to here, and to do that we need to use the move command. We're going to go to modify, and we're going to go to move copy, and it's going to ask us what's your selection. Now I want to get the point and the circle. I can just drag a window over this, and it's going to say you have 3 things selected, which is fine. All I really want is just the circle and the point. Then we're going to utilize the point to point command. I'm going to click point to point. Now I'm going to click on this point. Now I'm going to come over and click on this point, and right here we have the geometry that we need. We just want this circle to rest right here. And I want to say OK. Now what I want to guarantee that we have here is I'm going to go to the line command, and I want to guarantee that we have connecting lines on both sides that are just like this. I'm just going to connect all these points, grab hold of that trim command, and I'm going to trim off the outside. And all I want is just these 2 areas that we see here on either side. Let's just grab hold of our house just to take a look at what we want. We want this area and this area. And I'm going to say finish sketch. Now this is where we're going to create the curvature that you see on the top here. We want to kind of cut this off and make this an arced setting. And to do that, we need to utilize the sweep command. So we're going to grab a hold of sweep, and it's going to ask me for profiles. And the 2 profiles I want are the 2 up here at the top. The path that we will choose is this path right here that's going to cut backwards. And if we look at our front view, you're going to notice it doesn't go all the way through to the back because the path stops right here. I want to drag this out to where it goes all the way out of the object, and make sure that you're in cut. And let's say OK. And when I go to OK, we can now see that that's nice and curved up there on the top. I can also flip this to our front view, and you can notice that we have pretty much the exact same shape going on. I see it's a little bit smaller over here. We can always come back over to our sketches, and I can go back and edit sketch 1, and I can drag this down a little bit if I want. If I'd say I need a little bit more area in there. That's one of the things nice about not having these completely constrained. I can go back, and you can see now I have myself a little bit more space in there. So you have the freedom to modify that as you wish. Now in looking at the object, we have this cut up here in the top, and the cut says, the top of the triangle, if you will, is 80 from the center back, and then it's 30 on either side. And to do this, we're going to do an offset plane. So let's take a look at the bottom of the object. Let's go to construct. Let's grab a hold of offset plane. We're going to click on our bottom flat surface, and I just want you to drag up through the object. I'm way up above the object. It doesn't really matter how high you go. Just don't be too ridiculous with it. Just make sure it's something you can see, and go ahead and say OK. Let's grab a hold of create sketch, and you have construction over here in your browser. I try to keep you away from just coming out here, because as you get into more involved fusion designs, you're going to be more things to choose. Now I could click this, but I like coming over and clicking on plane 1 because everything is nice and organized. I only have one body to worry about right now, but I got all my sketches and my planes, and everything's nice. So we are in sketch way up above the object. We're not on the object right now. Let's hit the letter P. And I want you to hit project geometry. And really the only thing that we need, is we really just need this point right here. But, if you just want to go ahead and project everything, it's never going to hurt you sometimes to project too much unless you got a million lines going on. Let's go back and take a look at this line, or this cut. And from the center here, we want to go back a distance of 80. Now, we don't necessarily have to just snap right here. As you drag out, see this, you can see this dotted line. I don't have to be perfect and snap here. I just want to click and just go back. I'm just going to take a distance back here, and I'm going to grab a hold of, this will make sense here in a second, and I'm just going to dimension this line that we just did, and I'm going to put in a distance of 80. And I'm going to hit enter. And we're back. This jumped back on me, didn't it? Now, what's nice is I came from this point to this point. Let's delete this. I always kind of like when something happens in Fusion I didn't really want to happen. I want to drag, and I just want to snap this here. Let's go back in. Maybe I should have snapped it there. I was trying to say you don't have to be perfectly lined up with everything. Now we have 80. That works fine. So good. Now we're back 80. As long as we are back 80 from from the far left side of the object, you're good. What I was trying to get at was if you had a line out here and you come in, it's not really going to matter. It's like, I always say, it's like cutting down a tree. If you grab a chainsaw, you don't have to line it up perfect with the end of the tree. You can just cut right through as you wish. Now let's take a look where we're headed next. So we need to have ourselves lines that are angled 30 degrees off. So this is maybe this is where we can do that. I'm just going to click on this point here, our far 80 point. I'm just going to click, and we're going to click, and I'm just going to come back and click again. Notice how I went outside the object? Good deal. Now what I want to do is I'm going to dimension from this point to this point, and it says we got ourselves what, 30 degrees? 30. So we want 15 on either side. So right in here for our degrees, I'm going to put in 15. I'm going to hit enter. Over here, I'm going to go 15 to here and hit enter. I'm just going to grab hold of the line command, and I'm going to click here, and I just want to just snap this out. Say OK. We have ourselves actually a bunch of different sections going on right now. So as long as we have this on either side, we're fine. I could have just, snapped it out to here. The main point I'm trying to get across to you is that when we hit finish sketch and we go to cut, it really doesn't matter that you're perfectly lined up as long as you get the geometry that you want. Like, I don't need all these purple lines. I would prefer just to have, 2 triangles here. But when I go to extrude, I like to have more options than less options. So, like I said, it's like cutting down a tree. If I looked up here at the top, I don't really care. If this was the edge of the tree, I can come all the way out further and just cut through. You don't have to always be perfectly lined up. Now, we're going to drag straight down, and we're going to cut right through the object. Now, I can go over to distance and just say all here instead. Now, you can just drag all the way through if you want. That's totally fine as long as we're cutting. And I'm going to say OK. And we now have for ourselves that cut in the top view. Let's go back to our drawing. Take a look here. We have our cut in the top. That's a nice cut. We made that curvature first. That curvature always looks kind of cool. So where we're at next, I want to create for myself this diameter little nub coming out, whatever you want to call it, and that is a diameter of 30 and a distance out of 20. Let's click on our house. Let's go right back in here and take a look. Now let's make sure we get the location correct. It says it's up 25 from the bottom. It looks like it's in the center, but we can just make 100% sure by just referencing our line down here. I'm just going to reference the midpoint, and I'm going to come up and I'm going to click, and I'm just going to drag out, and it said our diameter in this case is a diameter of 30, and I'm going to hit enter. Let's grab a hold of dimension from our center point to the line down here. I'm going to drag over, and it said that up was a distance of 25. So I now have myself a distance up of 25. I've got that 30 diameter, and it comes out a distance of 20. So I'm going to click on extrude, click inside of here, 20, and I'm going to hit enter. So I have that one nub coming out. Next one, this little cylinder coming out has a diameter of 50, and it shares the center point with that. So diameter of 50, I'm going to come right into here. We're going to click on circle. Now it's not giving me the circle. Yeah, it is. It's right here in the middle. If it by chance it didn't, you can hit P on your keyboard and go project geometry. We're going to click and come out a distance of 50. Going to go ahead and hit enter. Let's come back. So it said a diameter of 50, so we're good. And we're going to go to finish sketch, and that comes out a distance of 20. So both of these going to come out a distance of 20 and hit enter. Now let's just flip over here to our side view. We have, it looks just a little bit bigger here. We were coming up from the bottom, a distance of 25. Now it looks like, yeah, that is going to lay flat right there on the ground. I was looking up at the top view. That does line up right on the bottom. So we now have for ourselves our little nub coming out. We need to put a fillet on this with a radius of 5. Let's go to fillet. Let's go on our outside distance here. We're going to put in a fillet of 5 millimeters, nice and rounded off. Let's say OK. Let's go back and take a look at our drawing, and it looks like we have every single thing that we need to create the object. Very nicely, well done. Let's go down to display settings. Let's go to visual style, and let's go to wireframe with hidden edges. And one thing you can always kind of take a look at is look at that little side view we got. It looks to me like we've got everything that we need here. If I go back and look at my front view, yeah, you can see that hidden line in there. We got a little bit of an edge over here on the other side. Nice looking object. So let's go back up to display settings. Let's go to visual style. Let's go to shaded. Now let's go ahead and color this in yellow. So let's go to modify. Let's go down to appearance. And when we go to appearance, You'll get a new little dialog box here. You can see I've been messing around with this a little bit before. And you want to go into paint, and let's go to glossy, and you can just drag and hold down on paint enamel and come out and just drag and drop. Then I got yellow, glossy paint. Make it look just as similar as we can to the object here. You can always go in and change maybe some colors. That's another video. So I like yellow is very easy to see, visible to the human eye. So this turned out to be a pretty neat looking object with that curvature here. I like the shiny yellow paint on it. So this has been a video for how to go about creating an object with complex geometry with some geometric construction, as well as with a sweep cut in Autodesk Fusion.